Good evening, everybody.
Hello, hello.
Welcome to another episode of Critique Corner with me, Daniel Parker.
And me, DB Fastbinder.
And if you are returning, welcome back. If you're new, what we do here is we critique stuff from our corners, and it's sports week here on Critique Corner because we've got a slate of sports movies to be talking about. And we kind of went back to our old format, something new and then something older and classic.
Yeah, sometimes the offerings on the streaming platforms, because we're not chasing what's new. We're not here to tell you that Supergirl was awful, which I'm going to end up seeing it. So next week, I guess I will be solo telling you what I thought of Supergirl. I just know I've heard enough to know that one channel I follow, Ruga Rabid, was basically going, if you're a screenwriter, this is good to watch just so you see what not to do, which is not a good sign.
Yeah.
But no, we just happen to watch things that we find at least interesting to watch, and then we tell you whether we think it's worth your time or not. So
yes. And first up this week, it is GOAT.
Yes. So this was a release that came out earlier this year, and I don't think it really lit the world on fire. I admit that when I saw the trailers for this thing, I said, "Oh, Sony Animation decided they wanted a Zootopia."
Yes, with basketball, or in this case, it's called Roarball.
We'll get into the nonsense of Roarball in a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was never the sort of thing I was going to actually truck over to a theater to watch.
Right. Yeah.
And so I think that with animated movies in general, we kind of always give each other veto power. Like if you start watching it and you're just completely miserable in the first 10 minutes, just give the word and pull the drag chute.
Yes.
And I was half expecting it to be this, but I think it's fair to say that this was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's not the greatest animated movie ever made, but it's certainly entertaining enough to sit through and watch. It's got that classic sports story, and you've got the storylines with all the different characters, and but they're all anthropomorphic animals. And they all live in and of course from what I could tell from the society is that it's separated between the small, medium, and then large animals.
I don't know if they really talked about medium animals, because I noticed that medium was always our main character, the goat himself. Let's see, where did I put that IMDb link here? Will Harris here, the goat, voiced by Caleb McLaughlin from Stranger Things. I noticed that I think only he referred to himself as a medium. I think for the rest of society, it's just big and small.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and so he's got big, he's got big dreams to play Roarball, and of course, his favorite team are the what was the name of the city?
What was the name of the city?
Started with a V.
Regardless, the team is the Thorns, and I couldn't help but notice that in a storyline about a team being down on its luck and possibly being sold off, that the colors and iconography really made me think of the late Seattle Supersonics.
Yes, yeah, yes. I was trying to place it when I was watching it. I'm like, what was the uniform remind me of? And then DB reminded me. They are, of course, now the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yes, which in terms of generic team names, it's a step above the Wildcats, but not very many steps.
But yeah. So Will Harris is he's a goat, and he's got big dreams to play Roarball, but of course he's too small to play Roarball. But that he won't let that stop him, and then So he's basically taken like all these different like odd jobs, delivering food and stuff, and then of course he's
Right.
behind on his rent, so it's got all the typical, you know,
Right. The kid with big. It's the well-meaning kid with big hoop dreams, trying to make ends meet while he waits for his big chance. And
yes, yeah,
his big chance emerges when at a local. So the magma from another team or from another city, excuse me, comes in to play, and our our lead of the other team here, the main attraction, ends up challenging locals to basketball one-on-ones, or excuse me, roarball one-on-ones,
yeah,
and nobody can touch him. And then Will goes in, and he doesn't win. Like, he manages to score a couple of hoops
yeah.
until Maine really starts taking it seriously and playing mean.
Yeah, yeah. And then then Will goes viral because he busts a move on him, and as they say in basketball world, he breaks the guy's ankles, figuratively speaking.
I said, like, wait, did they literally do that? Just supposed to be some terminology I'm not familiar with.
Yeah, you hear that all the time. Like when I mean I used to hear that like when I was in my sports viewing days when I would watch a basketball highlight and some guy, like LeBron or Steph Curry, who Steph Curry, by the way, was in this movie. Um, or somebody like that, they make some big move and they like fake out their defender and then like the defender like kind of loses their balance or whatever, like, oh, he broke his ankles. Like, okay.
Yep. So he goes viral. Meanwhile, you have the long-suffering team, the Thorns. They have a lead player here, Jet Fillmore, played by Gabrielle Union.
Mm.
And by the way, this is a co-ed sports league, which I thought was an interesting choice to probably just try to diversify the cast a little bit.
Yeah, and I guess they figure, with animals it doesn't really matter if there's no real size difference, I guess.
That is actually one of the advantages of using anthropomorphic characters, is that you can just evoke something about the character by making them a particular animal. Like Jet is, she's clearly a panther here, so she's big, powerful, um, moves smoothly, and is just very intimidating. And she's actually seen as a legendary player, just burned by being on the worst team in the league, never having a shot at the what do they call
The claw.
the claw, the
Yeah.
right, the championship, basically.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think she's supposed to be a composite of like a lot of different real basketball players, like LeBron James, and although LeBron won a lot of championships, but it took like LeBron and Michael Jordan. It actually took them a long time to finally win a championship. They were like several years into their careers, so that's a little bit of that, and then got somebody like Charles Barkley or I'm trying to think of but yeah, guys like that.
So early in the movie, Jet had approached her owner, who she basically said, get me some people I can actually work with. And so the owner, deciding to play a cynical move, um, decides to make history by signing the first little in in roarball. I keep wanting to say basketball. If I say basketball, I mean their fictional sport.
Right.
Um, and of course, there's tension because everybody just sees it for the stunt that it is. He's never going to actually get to play. Then he gets to play and he shows himself off. And then it turns into what I'll call a fairly standard sports story.
Yeah.
Because it's just the team going from a bunch of unorganized goofballs to a bunch of organized goofballs.
Yeah. Bit like Major League.
Exactly, yeah. Because while you have Jet here as the ace, everybody else is just insane, and it's clear that they're there because while they have talent, nobody else would want them.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, you got the Rhino character, what was his name? Archie, who's voiced by David Harbour, and of course he's got his two daughters on there. They're always following him around and making his life very hard.
They're little terrors.
Yeah, and then you got the giraffe, Lenny, who's voiced by Steph Curry, and he's got his own stuff going on. And then I can't remember the ostrich uh, girl. I can't remember her name, but she was like she always gets scared, and she does the whole thing where she puts her head in the ground.
Yeah. Right, and she's obsessed with people making fun of her in social media, which is kind of ironic that somebody who wants to just put their head in the ground and not think about things is always doom scrolling themselves.
Right. Yeah. And the other thing too with her was that she's been labeled a draft bust. And for those of you who don't follow sports, a draft bust is when a player gets drafted like either like the top pick or like close to the top pick, and they just have no career whatsoever. Many such cases throughout the history of sports. And then last but not least, you got Mondo, the lizard.
Who's like, he's the wacky one. He has the thick Russian accent. He's always shedding his skin and using it as a blanket.
Yeah. He's voiced by Nick Kroll. And then, of course, he also got the coach, who's voiced by Patton Oswalt.
Look, Patton Oswalt is kind of not my favorite person these days, but
yeah,
he does have a voice for voice acting. Like
he does.
He at least sounds like a cartoon character.
Yeah.
Unlike a lot of characters who can just sound very plain. Like when they bring in like a celebrity voice actor.
Yeah, yeah, and but he's the coach, and to go into like real life basketball stuff. Even though he's a coach, he's basically just a glorified manager, which is what most professional basketball coaches are these days.
Right, because they just kind of get bullied by management and the players, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah,
that's definitely the dynamic you see here.
Yeah.
Speaking of celebrity voice actors who sound like cartoons, the landlord character who kind of ends up being he's like one of the least important characters overall, voiced by Wayne Knight.
Yes. From yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Who is definitely one of the guy has been doing voice acting since I was a kid, so like he definitely is not the celebrity just there for a paycheck. Like he knows how to emote for animation.
Oh yeah, yeah. Of course, in live action, he was in Jurassic Park. What was the name of his character?
Can't
remember.
Been a while since I've seen it.
And he was also Newman on Seinfeld.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry.
So he's a nice familiar voice.
Yeah.
And so visually speaking, I think it is so interesting. Every time I see a trailer for one of these Spider-Verse style lower frame rate 3D movies,
yeah,
it always looks awful to me every time I see a trailer.
Yeah.
And then I actually watch the movie and it usually looks fine in context.
Yeah.
I don't know how it happens every single time. I don't know if they're using like pre-production versions for the trailer for some reason. I don't know if it's just because if the commercial is dropped onto you while you're watching things at a normal frame rate, it just is jarring. I don't know.
Yeah.
I will say in the Spider-Man movies, a lot of the Miles Morales scenes go too low frame, but this one I never had a problem with it.
No, it didn't. No, you can't really tell with the animation isn't nearly as janky as it is with like with the Spider-Verse movies. It's more in line with K-pop Demon Hunters.
Yeah, and I'm kind of getting forced to conclude that Sony is the most interesting name in Western animation these days, if they count as Western animation.
Yeah,
like Japanese company, but I think they're currently have more domiciled in California, and they have an Irish CEO. The last I heard.
Yeah. No, definitely. Yeah, I'd put them higher than Illumination. That's for sure.
Yeah, like Illumination makes the big bucks, but they don't make the interesting stuff. And then
Yeah.
DreamWorks is like flip a coin. Are you getting them in their illumination phase or their interesting phase?
No, yeah. uh, but yeah, but yeah, I mean, this movie, it's it's definitely enjoyable, and of course, we haven't gotten into the the wackiness of Roarball, which is just like
It's insane.
it's yeah, it is, yeah, because so it's not like traditional basketball where like they're playing on the wood court and they just go up and down and shoot the basket. Like every court is like unique in the design. So like the Thorns home court is like it's like a jungle. It's got vines and
Yep.
trees and everything, and then there's another one where it's all ice, and then another one's all fire and
Yeah. Or there's one where it's like a cave and there's like stalagmites um, falling down upon you.
yeah.
Or would it be stalactites? I always forget which is which.
Uh, I think it's like tights because they hang tight to the ceiling.
Okay. Yep, there's your mnemonic.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, it's like they just, yeah. And also they're just interested in being as visually interesting as possible. Like
yeah.
even down to the balls. I had heard about these hollow balls. It was actually a prototype that Wilson made of a 3D printed ball that they were considering replacing regular balls with at the NBA, but they ultimately concluded the hand feel was uh, not the same, so the players would have to make adjustments. They weren't sure how long they would actually last. They're very expensive because these things are 3D printed for like $2,500 a pop with the first set when I looked it up.
Mm.
But that's where animation is wonderful because as long as you can make a 3D model of it, you're fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, the only thing that I thought was kind of weird is because our horse here has to have hoof hands, he has these weird hoof claws on his hands
Yeah,
so he can grab things.
yeah.
That I kept finding mildly disgusting. But that's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
okay.
Like,
Disgusting is overstating it, but distressing, disturbing.
yes, yeah. uh, but yeah, this movie is currently on Netflix.
Yep. Yeah. If you like animation, if you think you like sports movies, if you want to make your kids stop watching K-pop Demon Hunters for the 15th time this month,
Yeah,
and it's only the first, so I don't know how they managed that, but
yeah, yeah,
give Goat a try.
yeah.
Speaking of the Goat,
The goat.
yeah,
Yes,
you read a Timothy Zahn novel that I hadn't heard of before.
yes. Well, I listened to the audio version, so I don't know if it counts that much, but I guess it does. But yeah, so I listened to the audio version of Star Wars Survivor's Quest, which was published in 2004. Um, so in between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. This is so the story takes place, I want to say like 15-ish years after the events of the Battle of Endor. And it's 3 years since Luke Skywalker and Mara Jade got married. And for those of you who don't know, Mara Jade was she was the assassin for the Emperor. She was called the Emperor's Hand. But when the Emperor died, he gave her one last command, which was to kill Luke Skywalker, and that was in the Thrawn trilogy. Long story short, like I said, she doesn't kill Luke Skywalker, but she ends up marrying him.
Mission failed.
Yes, yes. Screw you, Palpatine. But yeah, so Luke and Mara get they're off doing these other jobs because Mara is she's after leaving the Empire after the fall of the Empire, Mara goes to work for a smuggler named Talon Card. But since she got married, she's slowly detaching herself from the organization. Luke's helping her out with that. And then they get a message from a planet that Luke and Mara were on during the it was called the Timothy Zahn's duology. So this was like Visions of the Past, and then or Vision, I can't remember what, Visions of the Past, Spectre of the Past, or something like those two books. It was about the
Right, where they made a fake Thrawn to try to take over.
right, yeah. So they're on this planet Nerawan. Of course, that's the planet where they, Luke and Mara eventually admit that they love each other, and then Luke proposes to her. But there are a bunch of Chiss that are living there, and the Chiss are Thrawn's people, and they were actually cloning Thrawn at that base, and yeah. And but they get a call from Admiral Park, who's part of the Chiss. They call themselves the Empire of the Hand, and they get contacted. Well, at first, their message actually gets intercepted by a guy named Dean Ginsler, and I'll get to him a little bit later.
Before we get too far, for people who aren't aware,
yes.
Empire of the Hand, basically, Star Wars is divided into a few territories. The Chiss are from the unknown regions, which are unknown because they are always shifting around and impossible to navigate.
Right.
And so they have an empire that's a bit loose, but it always kind of ends up being like Dune, where you have to have these Force-sensitive navigators.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So them being involved with anything in the main galaxy is always kind of unusual.
Yes. Yeah. And so of course you've also got the New Republic, which they're in the
proper continuity.
Right, in the proper continuity, yeah. And the New Republic is still kind of like picking up the pieces from the whole the Kalmos situation with the Bothans and everything, because they almost there was almost a civil war between in the New Republic. And then of course the Galactic Empire is basically gone. They surrendered to the New Republic. But yeah, so Luke and Mara end up going to Nerawan. They speak with the Chiss Admiral Park, because he tells Luke and Mara that they have found outbound flight. And if you read the other books, outbound flight was basically a fleet of dreadnoughts. This was like just before the Clone Wars. They were sent out to explore the unknown regions and get to the farthest edge of the galaxy. But long story short, they ran into Thrawn, and Thrawn destroyed the ships. So the Chiss are basically saying, okay, well, we're gonna make up for what Thrawn did, and we want to recover the ship and the ships, and we want to make amends for everything. So Luke and Mara end up going to rendezvous with the Chiss ship, and then they it's called the Chaff Envoy, and they meet like a couple of the Chiss higher ups. One of them it's called Aristocra Formby, and then a General Drask. And Formby is, of course, just this, very regal, Chiss aristocrat, and General Drask is a very gruff and kind of a real jerk of a military commander. But and then, of course, they also have people from the Empire of the Hand that show up, and it's actually the 501st Legion, which was Darth Vader's old Stormtrooper Legion that he had. But now they're with the Empire of the Hand. And then they also meet a group of aliens called, well, they at first they call themselves the oh God, what were they? Started with a G. The um, I don't, they're not the Geonosians. And it's definitely one. That wasn't them. Um, but they long story short, they're not who they say they are. And then but then as soon as they get on board the ship, a bunch of stuff starts happening. Like the ships are being sabotaged, and uh they have all these issues that they're dealing with. And then of course then they meet Dean Ginsler. And of course, Dean Ginsler sells himself as the New Republic's ambassador, but he's not. He's an electrician, and the reason he's there is because his sister, Lorana Ginsler, was on outbound flight. And we kind of get into his backstory of how like his parents practically worshiped the Jedi, and all of he and his brothers and sisters were all tested to see if they were being force sensitive. And then and then of course his sister Lorana was, and they never got to see her, but because Jedi were not allowed to form attachments. And but Dean actually does meet Lorana. If you read the Outbound Flight book, they actually do meet, and he's very cold and mean to her. And so in this book, he's trying to kind of make amends for that. But yeah, so they eventually get to outbound flight, and then they find out that there are actually still survivors from who are still there. Some of them, like they're older, and then their descendants are there too. So there's this whole thing going on with who what to do with them. And of course they don't like the Jedi, so they treat Luke and Mara very coldly. And then but long story short, the aliens that they bring along are actually called the Vagari, and they are they want revenge for what Outbound Flight did to their people during the whole Outbound Flight crisis. So you got all of that going on. And then plus I would say a big highlight, though, of course, is the the dynamic between Luke and Mara. It's a very I'm trying to think how the best way to. They obviously have a lot of they obviously have a love and admiration for each other, but they also have like mutual respect. Right,
they spent so many years as enemies, then allies before they became lovers.
Right. Yeah. And
also in between, Luke ended up hooking up with a lot of very questionable characters.
Yes.
As different Star Wars writers tried to make him a love interest with varying degrees of success.
Yes. Yeah. There was Callista, and then who's the other one?
Here was Callista the one who was part of that like Force Witch coven, where that's like, oh, your mother was one of us, or whatever.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah, and I can't remember the other one.
There were a few. None of them lasted more than a book from their pet author.
Right. Yeah. But
it was always clearly going to be Mara.
Oh yeah, yeah. And is it just me, or because I've read like a lot of these expanded universe books. Mara at times comes across as very tsundere.
It's been 20 or 30 years since I read any of them, but like where she just like insists that she doesn't like Luke.
Right. Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if I went back and got that impression, especially as weeb-pilled as I've been since then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't have had the term for it back then.
Right. Yeah. But and of course the other thing too is she's very good at kind of like keeping him in check about stuff. Like when he because if you've read all the other books too. Like he lets his force powers get a little too much. Like he uses, way too much power. Um, and so, but then he ends up cutting back on it a little bit, and then whenever he kind of like gets a little, like, oh, maybe I can do this, and Mars like, no, don't do that. But no, this is it's a good read, or a good listen if you listen to the audio version. If nothing else, I mean, you can see what Disney took from us.
Yes, it's the expanded universe had its issues, but actually, this is kind of my realization about a lot of those expanding universes like Star Wars or Star Trek novels, American comic books, things like that.
Yeah.
Is that you're kind of there because you fall in love with the characters at a formative age and you like the idea of seeing them continue on.
Yeah.
You kind of accept a certain amount of inconsistency because of it's like a bunch of different authors and you have people trying to make sense of everything on the editorial side.
Yeah.
But what's united all of these efforts is that they were relatively cheap to produce.
Yes.
Instead of being hundreds of millions of dollars of Disney Plus or streaming shows.
Yeah. It doesn't cost much to write and publish a novel.
So it's like the whole decision to start trying to make movies like Rogue One Rogue One is a fine movie, but
Yeah.
in terms of its importance to the universe, it's basically a spin-off novel.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And like Solo is actually kind of reminded me of the Solo trilogy from the old universe days, just worse.
Yeah.
In part because they didn't have enough time to stretch it out.
Right. Yeah.
But instead of paying one author like a year to write 3 novels or however long it takes them, you instead spend or pay Lord and Miller to make it 90% of the way, then Ron Howard to make it again.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And I get that if you can make another Marvel movie series where you can just come out with a new movie 2 or 3 times a year and make $1 billion a year off of it, that's very appealing. But I think that for franchises like Star Wars, just a novel like this is the best way to move the story forward or fill in gaps.
Yeah.
Because it will appear to the type of nerd who actually wants to keep up on everything about Luke Skywalker because they love Luke Skywalker.
Right. Yeah,
As
exactly.
opposed to like the general public's attention span for a lot of things is, a set of movies once or a decade or two. That's about my attention span for Star Wars.
Yes. Yeah. 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 Star Wars was never meant to be like a Marvel like franchise. They were event movies. And then Disney came in and just like more.
Yeah.
And then and on top of that, they decanonized Mara Jade.
Look, you've seen how they treated Thrawn in animation and live action.
That's
Do
true.
you want to see their version of Mara Jade?
No, you're right. No, I don't want to see their version of Mara Jade. They would mess it up. Yeah, they'd mess her up badly. They'd make her. They would turn her into a girl boss.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and the other problem is that they wouldn't really have Luke for her to interact with, so she'd be off there with Ahsoka or whatever. In fact, it would be unsurprising to me if she showed up in Ahsoka season 2 as a new character.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that keeps that from happening is that Dave Filoni doesn't want another powerful female character taking attention away from his own OCs.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, Filoni's a hack.
Yes, unfortunately.
I said it. I said it. Type mean comments. I don't care.
Yep. Well, speaking of revolutionary movies from the 1970s that turned around Hollywood and gave people optimism again.
Yes.
We watched the original Rocky movie, which I gotta say, I am gonna pat myself on the back for that transition right there, because I was trying to think of how I would tie that together, but I pulled it off.
You did it. You did. Very well done. Well done. uh, yes, yes. So we watched Rocky. Rocky Balboa.
Put Stallone on the map.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess we'll just give like a brief overview of the plot because I think most people know what Rocky's about.
Right? Even if you haven't seen Rocky, you've seen enough references, and you know the song "Flying High" now, and
Yeah. Yeah, and in the moment when he runs up the steps and he's like,
or Adrian.
yeah, Adrian, yo, Adrian. So Sylvester Stallone is Rocky Balboa. He's the Italian stallion. He's in Philadelphia, and he's an up and coming boxer who
Or at least he
uh,
was up and coming.
he was up and coming, yeah. And then he of course he works. His day job is working for a loan shark. Making collections and threatening to break guys' thumbs. Um, and but he's training in this boxing club that's run by Mickey, of course, played by Burgess Meredith, who most
I
people
think,
remember as the Penguin from Batman.
yep, it's this and the Penguin.
Yeah.
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 I think the other content, I actually know. So basically, he is a boxer who's like about to hit 30, and boxing isn't exactly a sport for old men.
Right.
So, and he can win fights, but he's kind of seen as a bum who fights other bums, and he's breaking thumbs for a loan shark, or
Yeah.
he's told to break thumbs for a loan shark.
Yeah.
Because one of the things about Rocky is that he's just a genuinely nice guy.
Yeah. Yeah, and you also see that too with him trying to court Adrian, who in the movie she's working in a pet store that's like right around the corner from his apartment. And of course, lucky him, he happens to be friends with her brother Paulie, who is uh, very treats her very poorly and is a severe alcoholic.
Yep, who works at the meatpacking plant, and he's about, I would say, 5, 10 years older than Rocky, just very hard bitten.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and of course, but the major plot point is that Apollo Creed, who's played by the late Carl Weathers, he's the heavyweight champion of the world. Largely inspired by Muhammad Ali, just by his personality and how bombastic he was
Mm-hmm.
everything. But he's got a big title fight for the bicentennial, and but unfortunately his opponent broke his hand, so now he's got to find someone else to fight. And Apollo's going through the boxing registry, and then he comes across Rocky Balboa, the Italian.
Right.
The
problem is that
Italian.
anybody who's actually a competitor doesn't want anything to do with it.
Right. Yeah. So he's like, oh, Rocky Balboa, the Italian stallion. And of course, and he's not thinking about fighting him. He's thinking about the promotion and the money and everything that's going to come with it. The marketing and of course his trainer's sitting there going, well, Balboa's a southpaw. I don't know if I like you fighting him. And then Apollo's like, I'll drop him in 3 rounds.
Yep. So Rocky gets the shot of a lifetime, and the movie is about him training and preparing to take his shot at the title.
Yes. Yeah. And,
So,
yeah.
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So, this is one of those movies where some historical context makes a lot of sense. It was an age where there was rampant inflation. A controversial Republican had left office, to be followed by a widely perceived as weak-willed successor.
Yeah.
That oil stopped flowing from the Middle East. Truly unimaginable times. But
yeah.
um, but this is and also Hollywood movies at that time were like we'd had like the big bust of Dr. Dolittle and Hello Dolly to just kind of end the feel good part of the 60s and creatively.
Yeah.
Um, and so then it was just a period where like every Hollywood studio went bankrupt at some point in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
Um, like I think I want to say that Warner Brothers around this time was bought by a darned parking lot company, the first of like their awful series of honors.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
Um, and so a lot of creatives were just told to go crazy, just don't spend a lot of money. So that's what gave us things like Star Wars, Jaws,
Yes.
and Rocky.
Yeah.
And, and Rocky was like the perfect movie at the perfect time. Like with so I remember recently that Seth Rogen recently made an ass of himself online, which the day that ends in Y. What else do you expect?
Yeah. Yeah.
He was trying to say Stallone only has 4 good movies in him. I don't like Rocky because it's a sports movie.
Lay off the bongs, Seth.
Yeah, or just like enjoy a story that is like somebody stepping up, getting their one chance in life, and
Yeah.
making the most of it. It's just, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but anyways, this was the perfect movie for the perfect time. People weren't feeling too good about American life, and it was the 200th anniversary. So this
Yeah.
movie comes out showing a guy in a really like ratty part of Philly
Mm.
stepping up, and also ongoing deindustrialization in the Rust Belt. If they were even
Right.
calling it the Rust Belt at that point, it was basically becoming the Rust Belt.
Yeah.
Like, and I've walked around parts of Philadelphia. It doesn't look all that, or actually, there are sections that don't look all that different than what Rocky was living in.
Mm. Yeah.
And what I thought was just, and this is the movie that got Stallone an Oscar,
Yep.
which is very funny given his later reputation.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think so. We've talked about this before. I'm more of a Stallone guy. You're more of a Schwarzenegger guy.
Yeah.
Um, I would say that Schwarzenegger has a generally higher hit rate, but when Stallone hits, he hits hard.
It does. Yeah.
And also, I believe that up to this point, Stallone had been starring in adult movies, and I think he actually might
Yeah.
have been a part-time boxer, if I'm recalling correctly, where he was
Uh,
having to do like weird things to make ends meet.
yeah, he was. Yeah. And yes, you are right. He did an adult film, which actually after this movie came out, they changed the title of it to The Italian
Of
Stallion.
course, of course, got to strike while the iron is hot.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Um, yeah.
as I recall, he wrote the screenplay for it, and gosh, it's been too long since I thought about this. I should have looked this up before the show, but
Yeah.
there was somebody else they were considering for it, and I can't think of who it was.
Oh, to play Rocky?
Yeah, like who was going
Oh, well, let's
like
check out
because
IMDb here.
let's see here.
Da, da.
Anyway,
Yeah.
my point is that they were talking about having some like actual big name to it, but Stallone kind of insisted on playing the role himself, which boy, that was one of the smartest moves in movie making history.
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay, so I'm looking at it here. So that Robert Redford, that would not have worked.
No,
Um,
too pretty.
Ryan O'Neal, Burt Reynolds, Nick Nolte, and James Caan.
Okay, of that set, Nick Nolte could have probably done it the best, or at least like had like some of the spirit of the character.
Yeah,
But now it's Stallone. It's like he's
yeah,
the hard-bitten guy who like there are just multiple scenes of him trying to make people's days better for no reason. He's too soft to be a good loan shark thug.
yeah. Oh yeah. And the loan shark, I think, even catches on to that too. He's like, yeah, no.
Like, Rocky, when I tell you to break someone's thumb, it doesn't just reflect, and you don't. It doesn't reflect on you. It reflects on me.
Yeah. I'm not running a charity here.
Yep. Um, and watch. So I'd only ever seen this once before. When I was in college, I just binged the whole series over the course of a few weeks because my
Yeah.
local Hollywood Video happened to have a set of it.
Yeah.
And watching it through, like there are now some characters who I understand their functional purpose.
Yeah.
So, just for example, Paulie, Adrian's brother and Rocky's friend, he's basically there to be what Rocky could turn into in 10 years if he doesn't get his way out of there.
Yeah.
Um, Adrian is there to be his inspiration, but also just to show what somebody who isn't into he can kind of explain things to her. Like he actually explains what a southpaw is. The
Yeah.
other thing is that Rocky is a bit of a dork
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
because his idea of a pickup line for Adrian is to he shows up at the shop every day and tells her a bad joke.
Yeah.
He is very hard to dislike, and
Yeah.
I and we were talking about those other actors earlier before. Can you imagine Burt Reynolds delivering the jokes that Rocky was doing in a way that wasn't like wouldn't have actually worked on a woman? You know what I mean?
No.
Like Burt
Yeah.
Reynolds has so much magnetism that he could have made the bad Rocky jokes work.
Oh yeah. He could have. Yeah. Yeah. um. Oh yeah. And then and of course Mickey, his his trainer who, he's the we were talking before the show, the great scene in there where he's in Rocky's apartment because he knows that Rocky's about to fight Apollo, and he's trying to get him to try to get Rocky to let him be his manager, and he's like trying to convince him. He's like, see, I fought in this fight here, you see that
Yeah, 21 stitches.
21, yeah. And Rocky's just like ignoring him the entire time,
Right, goes to the bathroom, starts playing darts in front of him, just
yeah.
looks anywhere but him. Because
Yeah.
earlier in the movie, uh, Mickey had called him a bum, and uh, he taken away his locker at the club.
Yeah.
So, it, and the scene actually kind of reminded me a bit of that one scene we were kept praising in Rambo, where he just completely breaks down. It's not nearly as tragic, but it's still very much in the same sense of, why weren't you there for me 10 years ago? You didn't ask. I did. You just weren't listening.
Yeah. He's like, yeah, it stinks. My whole life stinks.
My legs don't work.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, they do eventually end up working together. And that is a thing I noticed is like there's a lot of reconciliation in this movie. Like Paulie has a drunken Christmas meltdown, but he's
Oh, yeah.
still allowed around.
Mhm.
Mickey does end up working with Rocky even after that, because Sylvester Stallone is an outspoken Christian, and I think that sort of forgiveness, like even if you have to expel the demons, so to speak, with like by shouting at him,
Yeah.
um, you do forgive and forget.
Mm.
At least that's kind of what I'm reading into it, because
Yeah.
this is definitely a Stallone movie, like through and through.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like he has certain habits where he likes to write his main characters as this type of um, guy with a heart of gold who doesn't really do anything terribly wrong, and even when he's in situations where realistically somebody would have done something shady, like say in like I thought he was a little bit too clean nosed for Tulsa King.
Yeah.
That was my one complaint about the first season that I watched. But like this is like the perfect blend. Like he basically keeps doing the Brocky blend for a lot of things, and this is like the perfect
Yeah.
application of it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yes, definitely. Yeah.
And it is so weird that we have technically had what 8 movies in this continuity with Creed.
Yes. Yeah. No.
Is it 9
Nine.
now? That's
9.
right, because we've had what, 3 Creed movies and
Yeah,
6
6.
Rocky movies.
Yeah. Yeah. Oof. Wow.
By the 4th movie, Paulie had a robot wife.
Yes.
I wish I was making this up.
No, no, he's not making it up. That's in the movie. Yeah.
But now, like this is one of the all-time greats, and it's fun to just watch occasionally. I actually cried a little bit at the ending, um, which I won't. It is very, you know what? This is a 50-year-old movie. This is your chance to not know how the fight ends.
Yeah.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So Rocky doesn't technically win. He just goes the distance, and they call the match and award it to Creed on technical grounds.
Yeah.
Like neither one of them knocks out the other. And it is just a brutal fight.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And as Rocky is like Rocky's first thought as the fight ends is he's like his eyes are swollen just about shut. They had to cut him earlier so he could release some blood pressure so he could see.
Yeah. Yeah. You cut me, Vic. You cut me.
Uh, and all he could think about is Adrian, and it was just so beautiful.
Yeah.
The big softy in me just melted a bit.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Me too.
But I went on a big diatribe. Is there anything that you wanted to bring up that I didn't cover?
Um. Like. I can't really think of anything. No, I think you've very well covered it. Yeah. No, it's no. This is a great movie. It still holds up. It's a classic for a reason. Um, you know, I dare say probably I may put this at the top of the movies in the franchise. I mean, I know a lot of people say Rocky 4 was the best one. Um, but I don't know. I think this one was just a pure Rocky movie. You know.
There's something nice about the simplicity of this one.
Yeah.
Um, like Rocky 4 has it's bigger, it has a badder enemy,
Yeah.
but like Rocky basically completed his character arc here.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
He proved he could step up. The rest of it was just kind of him stepping up to different threats over and over again, including Mr. T. I'm
Yes.
also not making that up.
Nope. Nope. Clobber Lang. I pity the fool.
Was that I wondered, was that his catchphrase before that movie, or is that what introduced it?
I don't know. I'll be honest. I'm not up on Mr. T lore.
Right, I'm not a Mr. Theologist, but
Yeah.
I'm lacking in Mr. Theology.
Yeah. Yeah.
Didn't
And yeah. Yeah.
didn't go to seminary.
No, I didn't either. Yeah. Yeah. Mickey. He's a wrecking machine.
Yeah, and I don't want to say like the other movies aren't worth watching.
No, they
Yeah,
Rocky
okay,
5.
Rocky 5 is bad.
Yeah.
That's the only one that I say like really has no merits.
No, it doesn't. No. Yeah. But and I've only seen the first Creed. I haven't seen 2 or 3.
I haven't seen any of them,
Yeah.
but and there's a reason that this thing has embedded itself so deeply in American culture.
Yeah.
Because this is like the quintessential American story. And for the 250th anniversary, if you haven't seen it before, give it a go.
Indeed. Yes. Currently on Netflix.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I think we've said all we need to say for tonight.
Indeed.
Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. We appreciate it as always. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Ring the bell, all that good stuff. Buy some books, and we'll see you next week. Night, everybody.
Good night.
And